Hey, true believers. Chris Matt coming at you with Uncanny X-Men 303. I've forgotten how hard of a read this issue is. Not bad. This is an absolutely excellent read. But Scott Liddell knows how to grab you and kick you right in the fills. And that's why it says if you read only one X title this month, this issue must be it. And he's not kidding. The print date on this was August 1993. And let's jump into why this is so hard to read. Now, before I get into this, if you guys, I don't know how many of y'all would remember the kind of afternoon specials that they used to do when, you get out of school and you'd watch cartoons or whatnot, and they would do these afternoon specials that would tackle like serious subject matters of the time. This is the way this book kind of does that, but it does it in a very heartwarming, emotion-grabbing, beautiful way. Now we open up kind of these dark, somber blues, and we see Jean with this look of concern, and she goes, "Jubilee, are you in here?" Though voiced in genuine concern, Jean Grey's question rings as hollow as the sounds of her footsteps upon the cold metal floor. For the truth is, she knows exactly where Jubilee is, how long she's been there, why the girl chose the professor's ready room, and exactly what her youngest teammate is thinking. She knows these things because she's a mutant, born with the power to read minds and telekinetically move objects with mere thought waves. There have been many times in her life, first as Marble Girl, later as a genetic template to the cosmic energy entity called the Phoenix, that Jean has felt blessed by the ability to reach out and touch another's mind, to share their pain, their joy, their feelings of hopelessness, of happiness. This is not one of those times. So we know right there that we're in for something a little heavy. And we flip to the page to this gorgeous artwork here. I love this panel. The way Jubilee's sitting in the professor's ready seat. Jean's walking in. We see all the mechanics of Cerebro. Now this book, Stanley presents the Uncanny X-Men in Going Through the Motions. Scott Liddell writing, Chris Illyana doing the lettering, Joe Rosas doing the colors. And then right here it says Richard Bennett, special guest artist, and Dan Green. So the artwork here, I love that they have both artists, but you can never tell the difference. Like, it doesn't feel abrupt at all. And of course, Bob Harris and Tom DeFalco, editor and editor-in-chief. So again, just like with the book that we went over yesterday, another all-star team working on this issue. Now, Jubilee, she's always kind of more attitude-y character, and she's like, you're not the only one that can read minds, Red. You just want me out of here, da-da-da-da-da-da. And Jean says, not at all. But I'm apparently much better at it than you are. The only reason I'm here is to make sure you're okay after everything that happened. If you're waiting for me to wilt and start blubbering, forget it. I don't do that crying thing. But if you want to know what I'm thinking, I can sum it up in 2 words. Life stinks. Yes, sometimes it does. Would you like to talk about it? Why? Is talking about it going to change anything? So, I like that Jean's kind of the more experienced mother type here, and Jubilee, the rebellious teenager. It really works in this. So, they start talking about if you let it out, it's not going to heal it, but it helps enough. And she goes, fine. Then you start, Miss Sally Jesse Raphael. Tell me what you're feeling. Fair enough. I'm hurt. sad, angry, frustrated, but mostly concerned. About me? Yes, about you. And it just kind of takes Jubilee by surprise. She goes, I don't know why I should have been surprised by everything that went down. So, I know I'm reading some of these panels, and if I could, I would read this whole comic book to you guys, because in its entirety, the impact it hits is hard. So bear with me. I want to read these panels right here because it really sets the stage for what we're about to jump into. So bear with me here. She goes, it's not like we didn't see it coming a mile away, but it's different when it actually happens. No matter what you do to psych yourself up. Now notice the paneling as I'm reading these text boxes. Notice how it feels empty, kind of spaced and separated, isolation. No matter how much you say to yourself, I can handle this, you really can't. It's like making all your stomach muscles tight, except you're expecting to get punched in the gut. Then at the last second, life decides to kick you in the teeth instead. Practically everybody was either still cleaning up in Texas or hanging out in Japan with the Head twins. The whole mansion was as quiet as it was real quiet. So this reminds me when we were going over the New Mutants Demon Bear arc. Remember the long, isolated, empty panels that kind of give that horrific feel? In a sense, that's what we're kind of building up here, but it's not horror. It just kind of makes you feel that isolation that Jubilee is feeling. You're just alone and not really knowing what to do. All the shadows. And what we find out is we're talking about Illyana, because she was infected with the legacy virus. And so what I like here is, Jubilee's talking about trying to cheer up Illyana, and she's trying to kind of make jokes about it, because Illyana can only speak Russian at this point. So I know we're going to get into this in a moment, but New Mutants, she's a teenager, now she's a little girl. I know it can be confusing, but let's just stick to the plot, and I promise this will reveal itself in a moment, okay? So I like that Jubilee and them kind of have a language barrier, but she's using a hand puppet of Kurt, and she's like, auf Wiedersehen, ach, Gesundheit, sauerkraut. And so she's like, here I was scoring major points with my bilingualism. But the biggest smile of the night wasn't even mine, because we see Illyana going, Katya! And enter Kitty. So Jubilee gets jealous real quick. And Kitty's saying, thank you for keeping an eye on her. No biggie. Not like I haven't been keeping an eye on her for the past few weeks. And so Illyana's asking about her brother in Russia. Kitty's Russian, and Kitty is responding in Russian. And so Jubilee kind of feels left out. Now, this is where Jean kind of gives her the backstory of how Illyana, when she came to the States, was captured by Belasco, sent to purgatory or limbo. Comes back, 7 or 10 years later. She's an adult. And Jubilee even says, she goes, she's trying to give her a backstory on the X-Men. She goes, yeah, the pre-X-Force dudes, the New Mutants. I'm not a total shirk. And she goes, so who's the hot-looking blonde? Illyana. So as you read these panels, I don't want to read all of them, but she gives the backstory of how she came to the States as a hostage, the Belasco stuff, how she became part of the New Mutants, how her and Kitty were best friends during that time because they both felt isolated, because Kitty felt like the odd man out on the X-Men team because she was the youngest. Illyana felt like the odd man out on the New Mutants because she wasn't really that age, and everyone saw her as a demon, as we saw during the Demon Bear arc. How everyone was ready to turn on her at the drop of a hat. And then they say about how Illyana reverted back to her childhood. She went back to her what was that called? That Peter always called it. not the compound, whatever it was, the land back in Russia with her parents. And Kitty kept in touch, even though as Illyana reverted, she did not remember her New Mutants time or her friendship with Illyana. And so it kind of puts in the context of why the beaminess of Illyana to Kitty, because they are best friends, even though Illyana doesn't remember all of it. And so Jubilee's trying to talk to Professor X about how, she's like, how's everything going? Is she going to get better? And he goes, he wasn't being rude, or nothing I can tell. He just didn't say anything. It's like he couldn't bring himself to choke out the words. Not that he had to. It was all right there on his face. She even says, Professor, it's not your fault. Is it? Honestly, don't know how to answer that. Whatever Illyana has contracted, however she contracted it, and he goes into this whole silent spiel about how he's trying to fight this thing tooth and nail. At this point, we can't even stop the progress of a virus, let alone heal the damage already done. I felt majorly bummed for the guy. It's one thing if an X-Men buys it in the like a slugfest du jour, but she's just a kid, Snow White. Like she was being punished for being a mutant, and he's the father of all mutants. So, if I'm not mistaken, this was 93. I think the legacy virus was supposed to be a metaphor for the AIDS epidemic at the time. And is just talking about how could someone so innocent like Illyana get the legacy virus? See how this kind of touches on the afternoon special, but turns it into the stakes of an X-Men story. I don't know. I wanted to hug him, tell him not to blame himself, that everything was going to be okay. And just look at her face. You don't need any action for this issue. It's all in the emotion. This is a character piece, and it's handling some major topics. Now, this part hit me hard because she goes, Jubilee, wait a moment. What's up? You looking for somebody to make a Ben & Jerry's run? You're out of luck. No, she's like, hardly. Illyana was hoping that you could stay to get to know each other. And so Kitty says that she will translate. Sure. I got a few minutes to spare. And so she's like, Bamp thanks you for helping him talk. It was then that I guess maybe I kind of realized that Kitty might not be half the dweeb I always thought she was. Of course, no self-respecting teen I know would call herself Kitty. What was it? An hour? 2? Sitting there on the bed yakking and whispering and don't ever tell anybody this because I'll deny it. And giggling. God, I can't believe I actually giggled. Everything seemed almost for half a fraction of an instant like everything was normal. Truth, it was probably the first time since my 12th birthday that I felt less like a mutant and more like a girl again. Oh, that hits you in the feels something fierce. And before you can take a moment to really take that in, the legacy virus hits her lungs. And so you just, how like when you watch like Grey's Anatomy or whatever, like all of a sudden the patient really starts to go down hills. And she's like, that's when everything just curdled. And so, again, at this point, they kind of go into a sense of, as a metaphor, life support or no life support. Do we want to leave this person in a coma? And that's the back and forth that everybody argues with. Now, I don't want to give that part away, but I do want... So sometimes in life, people get so hung up on arguing over do we drop life support, do we not? And it's a serious question that needs to be addressed. But for those that don't really quite comprehend the levity, or not the levity, the gravity of that, Jubilee's like, while the three of them talked it out amongst themselves, I I did something kind of, I guess the word is strange. Here they are, debating whether they should help her live or not. And the only thing I can think of is helping her with her stupid old doll. I mean, if I couldn't do anything to make her better, then I guess I was willing to settle for making her happy. And you can kind of see this little bit of a purse of a smile as she's holding her Banff. Like I said, strange for me. But anyway, she goes back later, and she's like, I felt that she shouldn't be alone when I just felt she shouldn't be alone just then. Now, I don't want to give away any more of that, but the last thing I do want to touch on is we go back from the mission that happened last issue. Peter comes flying off the Blackbird. While everyone is gathered here, who's looking after my sister? If I can't trust any of you to attend to her needs in my absence, then perhaps I should not leave her in your care. Peter. Son. I'm sorry. We did everything we could. The big guy didn't make a sound. No reaction at all. Didn't sob. Didn't punch anyone. Didn't even turn around. And so, I don't want to give away any more of that. But here, Jubilee said she didn't do that crying bit because she's trying to be that tough teenager. Now, let me go back to something here. I know that I don't want to spoil a lot of this book, but there's a reason that I want to because it's important. Jubilee says, I feel like I just want to be left alone. She goes, come here. Jubilee, we come into this world alone, and we leave the same way. The time we spend in between, time spent alive, sharing, learning together, is that all that makes life? That's all that makes life worth living. And so she cries. Now, people keep asking me why I highly, highly dislike the new Dawn of X books. This is the book that I always want to point back to. This was back. Yes, I know reincarnations are a trope in comic books that can't be helped. It's just book sales, whatever. But there are moments in these older books when death meant something and it hit and it hurt. Just like in real life. I can relate to this book because I just recently lost my mom. And it still hurts. In the new Dawn of X books, Quentin Quire sits there and talks about how death is boring now because of resurrection. So if someone dies, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't change a character, just like how storytelling is supposed to do. This book used Jubilee, one of the newest members of the X-Men that was still young and naive, and through her eyes watched how Illyana died of the legacy virus, and how Jean, the metaphoric mother in this situation helping the child through it, shows how death can hurt, but what it means to embrace those still alive and who you love, so that you, instead of being alone, you grow together. The new books don't even touch that by a mile. Scott Liddell did it in one issue in 1993. This is good storytelling. Dawn of X is not. I don't mean to be that rough, but after you've gone back and read these older issues and you see the human elements, the quiet moments in between the action, the character development. That's storytelling to a T, not just in comic books, novels, movies, everything. If you don't have character development or beats like this that help grow a character, then why bother? This was a beautiful issue, guys, and if you've enjoyed it, please support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. And if you've enjoyed this review, as we always say, we really appreciate if you do all the things that I usually do at the end of the review, but I don't want to do that in this. Instead, I just want to tell you guys to go hug the people you love, and I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day.